you're working at a B2B company, BMC Software, and you do Snapchat, which seriously, when I say that to other people, they're like, no, that's not right. Nobody's doing B2B.
You know what's crazy is, about 9 months ago when Snapchat really started to pick up steam around the beginning of this year, a lot of people were doubting if Snapchat was even a viable platform for B2C. And when you started to talk about Snapchat's viability from a marketing standpoint, people say, okay, I get it. You can market to kids on there, but it's never going to take off in B2B. And we're sitting here almost in 2017. You have companies like where I work, BMC Software, that have a presence on Snapchat. You have other B2B companies, DocuSign, I talked about them in my session today, Salesforce, Cisco, several others. And you know what? Snapchat's getting ready to change the game. They're getting ready to roll out email-based targeting, in which it'll allow you to run ads on Snapchat targeting email addresses. And once that happens, at that point, Snapchat's no different than Facebook or Twitter. And Snapchat's one of those platforms that's interesting for so much that people dog it because it's been known as being a social network for kids. It once had this connotation of being a sexting app. Everyone's on it. And when I say everyone, even mom and dad are on Snapchat. It's fascinating.
So what do you think the fear is from marketers? Is it because they don't understand the platform? They've never used it themselves. So when they see the tactic, it just scares them?
I think the fears change. We saw this happen early on with Facebook. And look where Facebook started. Several years ago when Facebook came out on the scene, you needed to have a collegiate email address just to be on Facebook. And today, the entire free world who's on social media is on Facebook, just about. So I think it's a fear of change, of having to adopt something new. We are in this marketing ecosystem where people feel very comfortable with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. So on top of that, you try to layer in Snapchat, which requires that a company or an agency or a marketer actually pick up a phone and speak. And that can be nerve-wracking for many. And, quite frankly, if I can be candid, a lot of companies still haven't even figured out Facebook or Twitter. So now when you're saying Facebook and Twitter are starting to be the old man's game of social media, you have to be on Snapchat. That's honestly a scary proposition for a lot of marketers out there.
So, when you open up the Snapchat app for the first time, the camera's facing you. It's intimidating. It's like, am I live? I don't know what I'm doing here, right? Do you have to be a personality to be on Snapchat, or can you actually just have your own voice and be authentic?
You see, that's tough. How every person, how every brand uses Snapchat is unique and individual to that brand or that person. While I want to say you don't necessarily have to have a personality, you don't have to have storytelling skills, the reality is what creates engagement, what gets people to opt in and watch is the content that they see, no different than any other platform. So you have some really awesome brands out there that are working with content creators that help tell the narrative of their company's story, and those are the brands that are seeing success on the platform early on. So again, to answer your question, I don't believe that you necessarily have to have that ability, but it certainly helps.
Your CMO just handed you a global campaign with a short deadline and the request to lead with video. You're given a team of you and, well, you. This campaign is asking for 15 videos that need to create awareness and engagement across multiple online destinations, drive demand and lead gen, and measure performance. Whew, calm down. Everything's gonna be okay. We've got you covered. First things first, we're gonna set you up with Video Marketing Suite, which will allow you to access everything you need from a single online location. And it's made for marketers, so you can easily run your campaign yourself. With just a couple of clicks, your videos are uploaded, automatically optimized to work across all screens and devices. You can distribute to your social channels to reach audiences where they are, and then drive them back to a customized branded video portal using Gallery, which you can create quickly, easily, and in multiple languages. For live events, Brightcove offers an easy-to-use live streaming interface, and after you're done streaming, trim the video and post it on demand for people who missed the event. We'll even help you create interactive elements to optimize video for lead generation. To make sense of all this, our analytics platform tracks a number of statistics in an easy-to-use UI. This data feeds into leading marketing automation platforms. You can see who watched and for how long, and what other content they consumed. Then you know what to create and who it's for. We're Brightcove. We'll help ensure that your video marketing is a success.
So the difference between video and just photographic Snapchats, can you get away with just using the camera, sprinkling in some text, some drawings, and use that as your brand on Snapchat?
Yeah, I would say if a brand wants to leverage Snapchat, whether it's B2B or B2C, do an inventory of who you have working internally for you and see out of that bench that you have, who is on Snapchat, and get volunteers. Yeah, I would much rather see companies out there have employees, younger employees, if you will, that are on Snapchat. They get it. They get the whole content creation aspect. I would much rather see more companies get those employees as volunteers than just create content that's just drawing and not really knowing what's happening.
So it's, I have a friend, and the friend, he doesn't understand Snapchat, right? It scares him. How can he get started today just with his own network to maybe get over that fear and think about defining that voice, just maybe a hobby or something?
The advice I give to everyone out there when they're getting started on Snapchat is follow these steps. Go into Snapchat and click on add friends, add from address book. What Snapchat's going to do is it's going to sync up your address book on your phone and identify who in your address book on your phone is on Snapchat and add those friends. Right away, what you're going to do is you're going to discover, oh, wow, this person that I didn't think is on Snapchat is on Snapchat. I actually have friends on here. Add those friends and start watching the content that they post and then start having conversation with them. What's great about Snapchat is you don't necessarily need to be a content creator to be on the platform and really enjoy it. Snapchat, quite frankly, is used oftentimes as a messaging, as a direct messaging app, almost as an alternative to text message. So you have folks like me that have much more of a boisterous personality. They're on there creating content. And then you have folks that are sitting back, observing, and just using it more or less to engage one-on-one.
Okay, and we've seen Facebook make the move, right? They didn't purchase Snapchat, and so they ended up taking Instagram and putting stories in. What's the difference, and why do you still prefer Snapchat?
There's a big difference between Snapchat and Instagram. I've been asked this question now over the last 3 to 4 months, and my answer has always been the same. There's a different audience on these platforms. Social media platforms are not all created equally. You don't have the same audience that lives on Instagram, that lives on Twitter, that lives on LinkedIn, that lives on Facebook, that lives on Snapchat. They're all unique, and how people use these platforms is unique. When you really think about the dichotomy of Instagram, you're talking about a platform that historically people are posting one really nicely curated photo and they're not creating a stream of content. Whereas Snapchat, it's raw, it's organic, it's what's happening behind the scenes. It's right before we did this show, me showing, hey, I'm about to go on with Jeff. You can do that on Instagram, sure. But historically, the way content is consumed and created on Instagram is not in the same vein of Snapchat. And for that reason alone, the audience is different. It's almost like saying or assuming that the audience on YouTube is the same audience as Vine.
Yeah.
Completely different platforms.
So is it something I can use to amplify a message? So like when I look at Snapchat, you see a lot of magazines, Cosmopolitan, or, some of the other, Vice, they use it primarily to promote another piece of content. Is that a way B2B can get involved?
I think you are going to see much more success in using a platform like Twitter to amplify your message. So if you want to get your company's content out there in cyberspace on social media and have it cataloged or indexed based on the topic, you're going to get a lot further traction by going on Twitter. However, if you want to pivot after you post that content out and say, go at us on Snapchat where we're doing an interview with our CEO, or you can actually see the inner workings of our company, that's how you leverage Snapchat. It's essentially storytelling. It's product storytelling around your brand. Again, different purposes. Twitter, great for amplification and broadcasting to actually get into the conversation. Think about Snapchat as it's your own private party. I like to call it the VIP section of social media because it's where you're going to be real, open, authentic, and you can really leverage Twitter and Facebook as a vehicle to get people to go watch what you're posting on Snapchat.
Is there any concept of hashtags or any concept of being part of a bigger message and not just your own story on Snapchat?
There's not necessarily hashtags. There's not right now community stories, if you will. But again, look at Snapchat as no different than your own YouTube channel. It's a channel where you legitimately broadcast out and you create video content.
And that video content still has a shelf life on it, right?
It has a shelf life of 24 hours. And I know a lot of people think, well, what good is it to me if my content's only available for 24 hours? Well, think about how people use social media in general. Social media operates in real time. I can almost assure you. What's your favorite brand? Are you a Timberland guy?
No.
No?
I actually like, for shoes, I go with Hoka Una Una.
Okay.
So it's a maximal shoe. It's the big, giant shoe.
You look like an REI type North Face guy.
Yeah.
So these are brands I'm sure that you probably follow on social media. Think when was the last time you went to REI's Twitter account or Facebook page to see what they posted a month ago?
Yeah. No.
Chances are you have no idea.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when consumers are interested in looking up a brand online, what they do is in the moment, they go see what's REI posting today. I'm a big Cole Haan guy. What's Cole Haan posting today? Not what did Cole Haan post yesterday. So I think that's where Snapchat really hits the mark, is that they recognize that all the content you post has a very short lifespan and shelf life on social. If you don't watch it today, if you don't see it today, you know what? You missed it, but tomorrow there's going to be completely different content.
And it looks like they're changing up the story a little bit too, right? They're opening it up to long content lasting a little longer.
Yeah, they have things like Memories out there that, I really still haven't seen a brand do Memories really well. What I think is cool about Memories is it's almost like a cloud-based server in which you can store your Snapchat content. And if you have a story that got a lot of views and that people responded really well to, you can always share that content again. But again, social media is real time. People want fresh, up-to-date content. The beauty of Snapchat, a couple things, is you don't have to be on there every day. You can pick one day out of the week that's going to be your day to create content, where you can go dark on other channels and you can say, hey, Twitter, hey, Facebook, visit us on Snapchat today because we have this going on. You can do things like run geo filters at different events, especially B2B. I talked about this in my session today. In B2B, you have industry trade shows and events like this happening every single day all over America, where you can run Snapchat filters or geo filters at these events and have a presence at that event on Snapchat without necessarily creating content.
Today, real time is the only time that counts. To stay relevant, you have to stay ahead. Your customers want the right information, right now, wherever they are. So how do you meet the demands of today's customers? By marketing in context. Context accounts for a customer's interaction with your brand. So each touch builds on the next, creating more meaningful experiences for your customers. At Sitecore, we call this context marketing. To do it well, you need marketing technology that has three things: contextual intelligence, content management, and omni-channel automation. Contextual intelligence gives you the information you need about your consumers, so the content you manage is more relevant and is automatically delivered wherever your customers are. The Sitecore Experience platform was built for context marketing, so you can create a more personalized customer experience. Demand more from your marketing technology. Demand more from marketing. Own the experience. Sitecore.
Okay, so what's a filter? Because I think more people have, now you're digging into 200 level Snapchat, and most people have just skimmed the surface.
Yeah, Snapchat is GeoFilter is a branded ad unit within Snapchat where you target an area that you want your filter to run. So let's say you want it to run at Dreamforce, which is Salesforce annual conference, huge conference, over 100,000 people converge in San Francisco for it. You literally pick the convention center where Dreamforce is happening, and you draw a geofence, and then your filter is only going to run in that location on Snapchat within a certain period of time. So anyone who's at that location within, let's say, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. is going to see your branded filter, which essentially is a transparent file that contains logos and branding of your company that overlays on top of someone's snap. So oftentimes we see these filters used at event type settings where people are creating content like they normally would at the event, but now the caveat is your brand can be interjected and inserted into someone's snap.
And that's by their choice.
That's by their choice. So I'll give you an example of a brand that's doing this really well and seeing success. And it's not necessarily B2B, but there's a startup called Kickster. It's a app for sneakerheads. And this has gotten a lot of press lately. Kickster has been running Snapchat geofilters at every Beyonce and DJ Khaled concert around the country, in which they are getting upwards of over 100 million views already on Snapchat, impressions that contain their company's logo. This app now has scaled to become one of the top 50 most downloaded apps on the App Store, all because they're using geofilters and getting this mass awareness.
B2B, I mean, there's events all over the place.
There's events all the time.
And the price of the expo is going up. The interaction with people at the expo is going down.
Think about in B2B at these trade shows where you have the event organizers are selling a booth, right? And most companies, they can only go to 1 or 2 shows a year because it's just so expensive. But then you have thousands of people that are at these trade shows. And what are these people doing in between networking or in between sessions? They're going on their phones. They're checking their Snapchat. They might take that selfie, and that's the opportunity where you really want to capture that audience. Anywhere where there's people converging and that audience might potentially be using their cell phone, you want to get that filter in front of them. And even if you have a booth at the event, you can still use a geofilter to augment your presence there. So you can have a geofilter that says, hey, stop by booth 123 in the expo hall.
Awesome. So I see the case. I think that you'll have B2B marketers looking at it from a different perspective now that they've kind of understood that it is beyond just the original sexting connotation, right? Kids are sharing pictures of each other with each other and it disappears, right? But really, as there's an audience looking for information, what's my first step if I'm a B2B marketer?
First step, if you're a B2B marketer, you need to really develop your strategy out over the next 12 months. First step is, who am I trying to reach? So if you are jumping into this wanting to reach C-level executives, I can tell you, you're already falling flat on your face. You really need to be aiming for that mid-level marketer, or that mid-level, on the hierarchy that reports into a C-level or senior director level. 18 to 34 is really the sweet spot for the demographic on this platform. So right out of the gate, you have a lot of B2B marketers who are going to say, well, I shouldn't be on there because the C-suite's not on there. Well, the C-suite might not necessarily be on there, but his or her direct reports are on there. And that's ultimately who's most likely going to be using the products and services that you're selling into that company. So who am I trying to reach? What content am I going to put in front of them that's of value? And so that's actually the most important, is the content. And then most importantly after that is, how am I going to reach them? So how are you going to reach out to this audience and say, hey, we're on Snapchat, come watch us? And that's where you do a lot of cross promotion using your other social media accounts. If you have a CRM list or email database, that's where those assets come into play.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited that you're actually doing this, and I want to watch you expand and work with other brands and see how they're doing it, because I think it is we're both Gary Vaynerchuk fans. I mean, he is on fire with this. He's been on fire with this. And usually guys like that, they can tend to see a little bit into the future because they're early adopters of so many things. And the fact that, like you said, the 30-year-olds are coming in, that's exactly what happens with the rest of the platforms. They hit that age, and then all of a sudden, everyone starts coming on board.
As soon as you have the 30-somethings and the 40-somethings on the platform, gloves are off. It's a legitimate business and marketing channel at that point.
Yeah, and then the teens may go away. They may find something else, right? But the other ones,
there will
stay,
always
right?
be the next Snapchat.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
But there will always be people on that platform, and so you got some lifetime. So if you get into it, you'll have a good couple of years.
Absolutely.
Around on it. Well, awesome. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
Awesome.